Hello everyone, welcome back to English Unleashed. In this episode, I want to share a simple yet incredibly powerful idea that can transform your entire approach to learning, working, and living. It's about focusing on one key thing, one important action that can make everything else easier, or even unnecessary. This concept is inspired by a well-known book called The One Thing, written by Gary Keller. The book raises a fundamental question. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or necessary? Let me repeat that. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or necessary? At first glance, this question seems straightforward, but if you really think about it, it has the potential to radically change how you manage your time, how you approach studying, and how you shape your future. Today, I want to specifically focus on how this idea applies to learning English. It'll explain how concentrating your efforts can help you improve your practice, sustain your motivation, and accelerate your progress. Let's start by talking about a challenge many learners face. Modern life is incredibly busy. There are work responsibilities, family commitments, notifications, social media, and countless different activities pulling your attention in many directions every single day. When you try to learn English, you often experience this cycle. You open your textbook, then get distracted by your phone. You listen to a podcast but then answer a message. You plan to study for an hour but after just 10 minutes, your focus drifts away. Many learners interpret this as a personal flaw, thinking, "I'm lazy," or "I lack discipline," or "I'm not serious enough." However, the author of The One Thing offers an important insight. The real problem is not laziness, but a lack of focus. In our world today, we are constantly encouraged to multitask, answering emails, watching videos, listening to music, contemplating the next day, or worrying about the past, all at the same time, believing it's efficient. But science shows that multitasking doesn't actually make us more productive. In fact, it slows us down because our brain has to jump from task to task. Each switch wastes energy, attention, and decreases the quality of what we're doing. When it comes to learning a language, this is especially relevant. For example, if you're listening to an English podcast while checking your social media, are you truly listening? Are you absorbing the content? Chances are, you're just hearing sounds without really understanding deeply. Now, contrast that with sitting quietly, shutting off distractions, listening attentively, and repeating sentences carefully for a focused period. Which approach leads to better learning? The second, because focused practice allows you to grasp and retain information more effectively. It's not about spending more time, it's about spending your time wisely. Gary Keller emphasizes that success doesn't come from doing many things at once. Instead, it results from repeatedly doing the right thing. This idea is crucial for language learners. Pick one goal or skill to develop at a time, and give it your full attention. Interestingly, successful people often have a clear priority. They protect their time and energy by saying no to many things and yes to one critical goal. In language learning, many students try to do everything simultaneously: grammar, vocabulary, speaking, listening, reading, using multiple apps, following various teachers. Over time, this can lead to burnout and frustration because there's no clear focus. A different approach is to ask yourself, what is the one thing I should focus on right now? For example, perhaps your answer is listening. You dedicate a specific period solely to listening practice. You listen, repeat, and improve without stressing over grammar or writing. This targeted focus often results in faster progress, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing less but better. Our limited time, energy, and attention mean we cannot effectively pursue many goals simultaneously and expect excellent results. Instead, concentrating on one priority at a time allows your skills to grow more rapidly, much like watering one plant thoroughly helps it flourish, rather than watering multiple plants superficially with a little water each. Many learners have big, broad goals: becoming fluent, speaking perfectly, memorizing thousands of words, but these goals are often too vague or overwhelming. Gary Keller suggests breaking down large ambitions into small, actionable steps. For instance, instead of asking, "How can I become fluent?" you might ask, "What is one small step I can do today to improve my fluency?" It could be listening to English for 20 minutes, learning 5 new expressions, or speaking for 10 minutes. These small, specific goals make your learning tangible, achievable, and integrated into daily life, ultimately helping you move steadily towards your larger aspiration. Let me share a simple story that illustrates an important lesson about language learning. Imagine two learners who both want to improve their speaking skills. The first learner decides to focus on everything. He studies grammar intensively, writes essays, and memorizes vocabulary lists. Despite his efforts, he speaks very little. Over time, his grasp of grammar improves, but his speaking remains weak. The second learner, however, concentrates solely on speaking each day. He talks to himself, records his voice, practices with partners, and embraces making mistakes along the way. After a year, while his grammar may not be perfect, he becomes confident in speaking. The key difference between them is focus. Success in language learning doesn't rely on talent or intelligence but on maintaining a clear, consistent focus. This leads to the concept of priority. Prioritizing means identifying what is most important at each stage of your learning journey. A revealing idea is that there isn't truly a middle ground of multiple priorities. Rather, there is only one main focus at any given time. All other activities are secondary. This approach is especially useful in language learning because priorities shift, depending on your current needs. For instance, you might initially prioritize listening to develop comprehension, then shift to speaking to practice communication, and later focus on writing skills. The essential point is to select one primary focus at each stage, which simplifies your efforts, reduces stress, and accelerates progress. Many learners often complain about not having enough time. However, a deeper issue usually lies in unclear priorities. When you don't prioritize, you tend to spend time on small, unproductive activities, checking your phone, watching random videos, or opening multiple apps, all of which eat up your time without contributing to meaningful learning. The solution is to allocate dedicated time blocks for your most important task, a technique called time blocking. For example, you might set aside half an hour each day solely for listening to English, free of distractions like phone notifications or emails. This small but consistent habit integrates learning into your daily routine and transforms it from an activity you find time for into a scheduled priority. The core message is that success in language learning doesn't come from trying to do everything at once. Instead, it's about repeatedly focusing on and practicing the right thing, your central goal day after day. This approach emphasizes quality and depth over breadth. Rather than juggling multiple skills simultaneously, pick one main focus, protect your dedicated time for it, practice diligently, and trust that small, consistent actions will lead to significant results over time. Now, let's discuss multitasking. Doing many things at the same time might seem like a way to save time and boost efficiency. For example, listening to English while checking your phone or reading a message instead of dedicating uninterrupted attention. Many believe this approach makes them more productive, but in reality, it often does the opposite. Multitasking doesn't save time, it wastes it. The human brain cannot truly concentrate on multiple tasks simultaneously. Instead, it rapidly switches focus from one activity to another, which drains mental energy, decreases attention span, and reduces the quality of your work. Over time, this switching causes mental fatigue, making your learning slower and less effective. For example, listening to a podcast while constantly checking your phone or daydreaming doesn't lead to deep understanding. Your ears might be hearing, but your brain isn't processing the information meaningfully because your attention is divided. Conversely, dedicating focused, uninterrupted time to listen carefully, pause, and reflect on what you've heard results in deeper learning even if the session is shorter. It's a simple but powerful contrast. One is passive exposure, and the other is active, intentional practice. Gary Keller emphasizes that multitasking creates an illusion of productivity. On the surface, you might feel busy and accomplished, but in truth, dividing your attention results in slower progress and superficial understanding. Learning, especially language learning, requires focused attention, memory, and connection. When your concentration is broken, your understanding remains shallow, and your progress stalls. Recognizing this, many learners are advised to avoid listening to English while multitasking, such as cooking or driving, because true practice demands a quiet environment where full attention is given to the language. The key is to reserve moments of concentrated focus, what we might call single-task learning, for practicing specific skills. Whether it's listening, reading, or speaking, engaging deeply with one activity at a time helps your brain build stronger connections and understandings. This deliberate approach accelerates your progress more than spreading your attention thin across multiple activities. Finally, the essence of effective learning and life management can be summarized by a simple yet powerful question. This question helps you identify your top priority. What is the one thing I can do right now that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? While it may sound straightforward or even challenging at first, reflecting on this question guides you to focus on what truly matters. It encourages clarity, intentionality, and consistent effort, ultimately leading you to achieve better results in your language journey and beyond. Let's take a slow and thoughtful approach to understanding what this question truly means. The core idea revolves around identifying a single, impactful action that can drive significant progress. Instead of trying to tackle multiple tasks or set numerous goals, focus on one clear step that holds the potential to influence many other areas. This essential action should be meaningful, something that produces strong effects when executed. It's not just about doing something for the sake of activity, it's about choosing an action that can make other challenges easier or even eliminate them altogether. The key is that this one action should create a ripple effect, reducing the difficulty of related problems and simplifying the path toward your larger goals. Applying this concept to language learning, imagine your aim is to improve your English skills. You might have various challenges: enhancing listening skills, expanding vocabulary, improving speaking fluency, or mastering grammar. Instead of trying to work on all these areas separately, you ask yourself what single step could yield the most comprehensive benefits. Perhaps focusing on daily listening practice becomes that pivotal action. By dedicating time to listen carefully each day, repeating, understanding, and gradually absorbing, you're simultaneously improving vocabulary, grammar comprehension, and spoken fluency over time. This targeted activity of focused listening practice becomes a powerful change maker. The strength of this approach lies in the power of the focusing question. Many people tend to live reactively, tackling small, urgent tasks without keeping their bigger objectives in mind. They might spend their day answering messages and completing quick tasks, feeling busy but not necessarily moving closer to their main goals. This is especially common among language learners, who often settle for easy activities like short reading exercises or reviewing old notes. Avoiding the more challenging tasks like speaking, they might think, I need to learn more grammar or vocabulary first, delaying the moment to speak out loud. However, when they ask themselves the focusing question, what is the one thing I can do today to accelerate my progress, the answer might be to start speaking, even imperfectly. Though difficult, that one action can unlock significant improvement. This method also applies to different timeframes: big picture goals, monthly milestones, weekly objectives, or daily actions. For example, setting a yearly goal to build a habit of daily listening leads to deciding to listen to one podcast each day, which then results in listening for a set amount of time without distraction every evening. This process connects grand aspiration with small, manageable steps. A crucial aspect of this strategy is the importance of specificity. Instead of vague questions like, what should I do to improve my English? A more precise question would be, what is the one thing I can do today to improve my listening skills? The more specific the question, the more effective and actionable the answer becomes. For instance, if a learner wants to enhance pronunciation, she might feel overwhelmed by possible options: reading, listening, writing, studying phonetics. Asking herself, what is the one thing I can do this week to improve my pronunciation, could lead to a focused activity like shadowing a short audio clip daily. Over time, this concentrated effort makes a noticeable difference, proving that doing less but doing it better is often more effective. It's important to understand that the goal of this approach isn't to do more tasks. Instead, it's about doing the right task with greater focus and quality. Many people find comfort in doing many activities, feeling busy and productive, but this does not necessarily lead to real progress. Effectiveness is about prioritizing the most impactful actions. In terms of discipline, the traditional view might suggest pushing yourself to do everything all the time, but a more sustainable perspective emphasizes protecting and maintaining one core habit until it becomes automatic. When this habit is ingrained and effortless, discipline ceases to be hard work and becomes a natural part of your routine. Consistently engaging in that one key activity like daily listening or speaking ensures steady progress, even on days when motivation wanes. Overall, this approach encourages us to be strategic, focused, and disciplined in our efforts, making sure that each step we take is purposeful and contributes significantly to our bigger goals. Over time, certain habits become an integral part of your daily life. Once a habit is established, it can serve as a foundation that enables you to introduce additional habits gradually. However, before adding new routines, it's crucial to reflect on your priorities. According to Jerry Keller, an insightful author, one common mistake is confusing what feels comfortable with what is truly important. People often gravitate toward easy tasks because they are familiar or require less effort, like choosing silent reading over speaking practice. While reading might seem safe and simple, more urgent skills such as speaking or listening may be more beneficial for your progress. The key is to be honest with yourself when asking which skill will most effectively advance your learning. This honesty can be uncomfortable because it often means focusing on what you dislike or find difficult rather than what you enjoy most. Yet, this deliberate focus is essential for meaningful growth. A frequently expressed concern among learners is that concentrating on one aspect of language will cause other skills to stagnate. Surprisingly, the opposite is usually true. Nurturing a core skill tends to lift other abilities naturally. For instance, enhancing listening skills often broadens your vocabulary, practicing speaking reinforces grammar, and extensive reading improves writing. This interconnectedness highlights why choosing the right focus skill is so powerful, because it supports many other areas of learning. Now, turning to the topic of goals and time management. Many individuals feel they lack time for language study despite knowing what they need to do. The reality, however, is often not about a lack of time, but about misplaced priorities. We all have the same 24 hours each day. The difference lies in what we choose to prioritize and protect. A typical day might involve waking up, checking your phone, working, solving problems, social interactions, and relaxation. Yet, amidst all this, dedicated time for language learning can easily be overlooked. The mistake often isn't the absence of time, but the failure to allocate it consciously. For what truly matters, effective prioritization requires scheduling your important activities first before other commitments or leisure activities, because free time often remains elusive. In language learning, this means setting specific, consistent times for study rather than postponing until free time appears, which may never happen. By making language practice a daily routine, such as dedicating a fixed period every day, you integrate it seamlessly into your life, transforming it from an optional activity into an essential part of your routine. When considering long-term goals, many learners aim for ambitious milestones: fluent speech, native-like pronunciation, professional proficiency, but such goals can seem distant and vague. To make progress, it helps to work backwards. Start with your ultimate goal and ask what concrete actions are required at different intervals, from yearly to daily. For example, if the goal is to speak confidently in 2 years, you might decide that building a daily speaking habit is necessary this year. Finding a conversation partner this month, scheduling regular practice sessions weekly, and dedicating a specific time each day for speaking exercises. Breaking down big goals into manageable, immediate actions makes the process feasible and motivates consistent effort. Another important concept is time blocking, which involves reserving dedicated periods for your most vital activities. But it's not just about blocking time for study, it's also about scheduling, planning, and rest. Without planning, you may lose direction. Without rest, your energy depletes. Effective language learners, for example, might set aside morning time for listening, Sunday planning sessions, and evening reviews. These focused time slots, though brief, create structure and sustainability in your learning journey. A common mistake many learners make is trying to study when they're exhausted late at night, after a full day of work or stress. While it's tempting to squeeze in a few pages or a quick lesson, this often results in fatigue and burnout. The real issue is energy, not discipline. To maximize effectiveness, you should protect your best energy periods for your most important learning tasks. If you're most alert in the morning, dedicate that time to challenging new material. If evenings leave you tired, opt for easier, low-energy activities like listening or reviewing. Planning realistically is also essential. Many ambitious learners set overly demanding daily goals like studying 2 hours every day, which they quickly abandon because the plan is unmanageable. Small, consistent efforts are more sustainable and prove more effective over time. For example, studying for 20 minutes daily beats sporadic 2-hour sessions once a week. Consistency trumps intensity, and maintaining a steady routine builds momentum. Protecting your time involves learning to say no, resisting distractions or unreasonable requests that pull you away from your priorities. For instance, refusing to check your phone during study time or choosing to focus on learning first is a sign of responsible self-management. It's not selfish but strategic, safeguarding your future self's progress and success. Balancing different aspects of life doesn't mean dividing time equally among work, family, health, and learning. Instead, it's about intentionality, allocating more time to what is most important at a given moment. There may be times when focusing intensely on language learning is appropriate, while other periods demand more attention to family or work. The key is to be deliberate in your choices, not to drift aimlessly through your time. Lastly, many students wrestle with guilt when they miss a day of study, but this feeling is counterproductive. Progress is built not on perfection, but on consistency in returning to your practice after setbacks. Being kind to yourself and resilient, rather than overly critical, helps sustain motivation over the long term. In conclusion, behind all these habits and strategies lies a simple, powerful message. Lasting change happens through focusing on one important thing at a time, repeating it consistently, rather than trying to do everything at once. By doing so, you shape not just your language skills but also your future. Thank you for joining this journey of learning. Share your one focus with others, and remember, you are not only learning English but also building your future. Take care, stay focused, and keep moving forward.